Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. You guys know what time it is. Time for another client lesson update. And remember, if you guys like these type of videos, please remember to click like down below. Help keep the likes higher than the dislikes. It will be greatly appreciated. Today, I want to chat with you guys about when you're coaching clients, be prepared for vastly different genetics. Like, my God, the level of genetic differences you're going to get in clients, particularly when you get more than 10 clients, because I'm well past that point. The differences that you're going to see in terms of strength potential, height, muscle fiber distribution, it can be massive from person to person. And when you're coaching people, you're going to have to learn how to deal with these different things. And what I mean from differences in terms of strength. Well, let me explain it. I've had some people come in some of these updates and say, look, if a guy can't reach your novice strength standards on some basic programming, I don't know what to say. Like, well, I'm going to give you some of the more extreme examples. I've had people who ran starting strength, then my ice cream fitness. I'm talking like 6 months at each of those. Then run something like 5-3-1 for 6 months. They bench 200 pounds. Okay. Still under 400-pound deadlifts, 300-pound squats, right? Things like that. Okay. I've had clients who literally have ran every one of those programs, at least one client, for more than 6 months. Now, this person now is obviously quite a bit ahead of that. But you start putting that in perspective, basically 2 full years of effective proven programs, still not reaching those novice strength standards. Okay. It's more common than you would think. I also have a client who's never run a program in his life. Okay, let me put that in perspective. I have a client who has never run a program in his life. Just come in and train and lifted weights, got under barbell, squatted, deadlifted, benched, did some rows, whatever. Played around for years, never ran any sort of structured program. Just came in and just worked out, did whatever he wanted. 475 squat and a 500 deadlift. Okay, perspective. He's never run a program. 475 squat with no program, ever. I've got guys ranging from 5'4" to 6'5". I have people who have such lack of fast twitch muscle fibers that no matter what we do, we get them faster. Maybe their lower body gets faster, but their bench speed, their overhead pressing speed looks like it's in slow motion, even with 70-80% of their max on the bar. I have people who are so fast that they almost hurt themselves on box squats. So the muscle fiber distribution varies dramatically. And the same thing comes over when we start talking about weak point training. Realistically, one of my most genetic free, I have a client, he's one of my longer lasting clients at this point. He's been there a while. Okay, this is going to make some of the guys upset. When we talk about freakish genetics, guy never trained any real volume for everybody, doesn't need it. Reps 300 on the bench. Okay. Does no bodybuilding training, trains exclusively. I'm talking exclusively for strength. He doesn't care. I'm making him do some small exercises, but he's like, man, now you're making me do 10s. I don't want to do 10s. It's like, you're killing me, coach. Okay, reps 300 on bench, less than 200 pounds, looks like a bodybuilder. Chest cleavage, round delts, probably has 17-inch arms. Doesn't do any bodybuilding training at all. He doesn't even, it's like, and he's happy. It's like he's happiest when I just let him do triples. For a while, I let him just do that. Now he's on conjugate. And he doesn't like all the 10s. Like, what are you doing? All you guys out there who are chasing his sticks, like, what? He doesn't like doing 10s? No, he's not used to that stuff. He just wants to live heavy. Looks like a bodybuilder, only cares about performance. Same thing, you guys saw my kid Mike with the shoulders. You were like, man, what did he do for his delts? 10 rep sets overhead press. Doesn't do any delt work, just overhead presses. in rows. Okay, that's what his delts look like. I have other guys who, for us to get any delt, we have to do tons of overhead pressing, lateral raises, face pulls. Guys who wanted delts, they wanted to look more aesthetic, we had to add all that stuff on top of their power training. Stuff's going to vary a lot. It's going to vary a lot. You have to figure out how much volume and things to put at people. You know, I have guys who, again, have a good amount of fast twitch fibers. I can do speed work for them. I can do speed work. We can do heavy work. Their upper body grows fine, grows like a weed. I have other guys who, if I throw that at them and we don't put a bunch of training volume for all their upper body, they stagnate completely. They can't make any progress. So that's one of the things I find too, the amount of volume that you need from person to person, there's definitely a genetic component. And in some cases, some of my guys have such a low minimum effective volume for certain muscles that I can literally just throw singles, triples, a little speed work, and those muscle groups grow. Like visibly grow, their lifts go up. I have other guys where I literally have to have 10 sets of 10 for supplemental work throughout the week. It could be split up 5 by 10 twice a week to see any muscle growth in those areas on top of their normal heavy training. The training volumes required, minimum effective volume from person to person to see muscle growth is dramatically different. Kinesthetic intelligence is dramatically different. I have people who you can explain to them in Skype, they take notes, how to correct a movement pattern, show them examples, show them a couple clips, show them some pictures, describe it to them. They will come in and hit a textbook perfect lift on that exercise the next time. And I'm talking a box squat, a sumo deadlift. You have other people, it takes 8 or 10 weeks for them to learn how to perform a sumo deadlift. It takes them a month to box squat correctly with a light weight to get a single correct rep. So kinesthetic intelligence varies, and it doesn't always correlate with the aesthetic genetics. You know, I mean, that's a perfect example. Perfect example. Mike, who you guys have seen, people have seen him do his thing. He's still out there. He took some of his stuff down. But he's a perfect example. Mike takes a while to learn new movement patterns. But he's got good aesthetic genetics, right? Which is very genetic. Got another guy doesn't have good aesthetic genetics, struggles with body fat. Perfectly learns movement patterns the first time. You give him instructions, I want you to change this, this, and this. Next time he films a lift, it looks perfect. You can literally verbally tell him how to fix an exercise, and his form looks spectacular the next time he does it. Same guy, first time you have him max, hit a 1 rep max on these lifts that you've now form coached him on. They look perfect. So you're going to find these things are different. Your structures are going to be different in people. Your volume, the training volumes required to get people to grow in different muscle groups is going to be dramatically different. Kinesthetic intelligence is going to be dramatically different when you're dealing with people. These are all genetic traits. Now, people will say, well, is that based upon ethnicity? Well, no, you'll find the patterns are there, but you're also going to find exceptions. Right? Because we have different studies on things. We know that different groups of people around the world, certain traits are in greater and lesser percentages. But I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to find the exceptions to those rules if you start coaching clients. Okay? You're going to find the exceptions to those rules. So no, you can't even use that as a guideline. You can't use where someone's family came from. Say, oh, this is exactly what's going. This is how they're going to. I haven't found that to be completely true. In my clients so far, I haven't found that to be universally true. The trend is true. But I'm getting exceptions to those different things because there are different studies on that. No one ever talks about those things in the modern climate, but they're there. And I have other coaches who we talk about those things, right? We talk about those things because we have to deal with different clients. And we do look for those trends and then look to see do different people meet those trends. But there's exceptions. There's exceptions. I'm going to tell you right now, not every black person is explosive. Okay? That's a myth. That is absolutely a myth. Now, is it true a pretty good percentage of the time? Yeah. Yeah. But I have an exception to that rule in my clients. I have an exception. So you can't even look at all this and say, oh yeah, it's because their ethnicity. That's going to happen. Well, until it doesn't, and then you're going to have to take that into account. So the thing is that it's interesting when you start coaching clients, and especially as the numbers mount up, you start getting exceptions to a lot of these rules. You start finding people who have vastly different genetics. And interestingly enough, oftentimes the people who struggle with a lot of stuff because they don't have the best gifts and they have things that need extra care are going to be oftentimes the ones who are going to hire you as a coach. Right? I actually find, as far as my clients go, I have about a third of my clients are really gifted. Like way above average genetics for a number of traits. I'm talking explosiveness or aesthetics. I have some very, very gifted people. Again, more than you would expect from the general population, right? That top 10% are oftentimes going to seek out coaches because they want to get really good. Okay, that makes a big chunk of my clients. Then you get that other big chunk, the people way down near the bottom. I've struggled. I have struggled. Why can't I get to a 225 bench? I've been training for 3 years. I feel like I'm training hard. What's the problem? Why is my squat barely 275? I've run this program and this program. I stuck this one out for 6 months. Why am I squatting 275? Okay, you get a big chunk of those other outliers. And you have to work with them. You've got to figure out what's happening and why they're not getting there. Yeah, it's going to be a genetic component, but some of that's going to be the way that they're learning stuff, doing stuff. You have to take people who are the outliers. You're going to get, and that's just what I'm finding personally as a coach, and a lot of you will find this as a trainer, you get larger chunks of the outliers in the different directions because for obvious reasons, those people want coaches. People who are struggling, who are still serious about their goals, they're going to hire coaches. And you're going to have to learn to make them better. The phenomenal people will seek out coaches because they know that they have the potential to be amazing. And you're going to have to coach both of these groups of people side by side. You're going to have to figure out how to make things work for them. And no, you can't just put them all on the same programs. Okay? That's not going to work. Mainly on the volume side too. That's the big one. People's volumes required to see adaptation varies massively. And that's been the most fascinating one for me to observe, is how low some people's volume can be and to still get crazy results. And some people, how high you have to push their training volume to see anything. That's been the biggest one that I've noticed. That's been the most fascinating thing for me as I've accumulated a larger number of clients. You start trying to look for rules on volume, all this debate on volume. When you start coaching clients, you're going to find that's bullshit. That's just simply not true. Training volume requirements are massive from person to person and even upper versus lower body in the same person. That one's interesting. Just something to keep in mind when you're coaching people. All right, guys, well, that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.